Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
The sands of time have a way of burying stories, of silencing voices that once roared like the ocean waves against the shores. Among these lost tales is the hauntingly beautiful history of the Black Ohlone people, a chapter of humanity that whispers faintly through the winds and echoes in the unmarked graves of California's verdant landscapes. Their story is not one of simple disappearance. It is a tale of resilience, tragedy, and a cultural erasure so profound that it leaves behind more questions than answers. To understand what was lost, we must first dive into what little remains, the faint traces of a people whose legacy is etched in the fabric of the land they once called home. The Ohlone people, broadly defined, were a collection of indigenous communities who thrived along the central coast of California for thousands of years before European settlers arrived. Among them, a distinct subset, the Black Ohlone, stood out, their origins and lives cloaked in mystery and debate. While mainstream narratives often fail to acknowledge their existence, oral histories and archaeological findings suggest that these people were more than mere footnotes in California's history. They were artists, spiritualists, and guardians of an ancient wisdom that linked humanity to the natural world in profound ways. But who were they, really? Were they a people descended from early migrations of Africans who found their way to the Americas long before the transatlantic slave trade? Or were they a community with darkened skin tones shaped by environmental factors, distinct yet intertwined with the broader Ohlone culture? These questions remain the subject of speculation and debate, their answers lying buried beneath layers of history rewritten by colonizers and historians unwilling or unable to see beyond their Eurocentric lenses. As we unravel the threads of the Black Ohlone's disappearance, we are confronted with a broader tragedy of colonialism, racism, and cultural annihilation. The arrival of Spanish missionaries in the late 18th century marked the beginning of the end for many indigenous groups in California. With them came disease, forced labor, and the brutal imposition of Christianity, a trifecta of destruction that systematically dismantled centuries-old ways of life. For the Black Ohlone, whose presence was already marginalized within the broader indigenous narrative, this invasion spelled an almost total obliteration of their identity. What makes their story so compelling is the enduring mystery that surrounds it. Unlike many indigenous groups whose histories have been documented, albeit through biased perspectives, the Black Ohlone left behind little in the way of written records. Instead, their legacy survives in fragments, the whispered recollections of elders, artifacts unearthed in forgotten corners, and the faint impressions their lives left on the land. These remnants are tantalizing yet incomplete, offering glimpses into a world that was vibrant, complex, and deeply connected to the rhythms of nature. To truly grasp the scope of their disappearance, we must journey back to a time before the Spanish missions, before the waves of colonization swept across California. The Black Ohlone, like their counterparts, lived in harmony with the land, their lives shaped by the cycles of the seasons and the abundance of the natural world. They were adept hunters, gatherers, and fishermen, their diets rich with the bounty of the Pacific Ocean and the fertile landscapes that surrounded them. Their spiritual beliefs were deeply rooted in the natural world, with ceremonies and rituals that celebrated the interconnectedness of all life. This symbiotic relationship with nature was not merely a means of survival. It was a philosophy, a way of being that defined their identity. However, the arrival of European settlers shattered this delicate equilibrium. The Spanish missions, established ostensibly to convert the heathens to Christianity, became centers of oppression and exploitation. Indigenous people were forcibly relocated, their traditional ways of life eradicated under the guise of salvation. The Black Ohlone, already marginalized within the larger indigenous framework, faced a doubly cruel fate. Not only were they stripped of their land and culture, but their distinct identity was systematically erased, their contributions and existence ignored or forgotten by those who wrote the history books. The physical toll of colonization was devastating. Diseases brought by Europeans decimated indigenous populations, with mortality rates exceeding 90% in some communities. For the Black Ohlone, this biological onslaught was compounded by the psychological and cultural trauma of forced assimilation. Traditional knowledge, passed down through generations, was lost as elders died and children were indoctrinated into a foreign way of life. The scars of this cultural genocide linger to this day, a silent testament to the resilience and fragility of human memory. But even in the face of such overwhelming odds, the Black Ohlone spirit endured. Fragments of their culture survive in the stories told by their descendants, in the artifacts unearthed by archaeologists, and in the land itself, which still bears the imprint of their presence. These remnants are more than just historical curiosities. They are a call to action, a reminder that the stories of the marginalized and forgotten deserve to be told. By piecing together these fragments, we can begin to reconstruct a narrative that honors their memory and sheds light on the injustices they endured. The disappearance of the Black Ohlone is not just a historical tragedy. It is a cautionary tale. It underscores the dangers of erasure, of allowing dominant narratives to overwrite the diverse and multifaceted stories that make up our collective past. It challenges us to question what we think we know about history and to seek out the voices that have been silenced. In doing so, we not only honor the memory of the Black Ohlone, but also reaffirm our commitment to a more inclusive and truthful understanding of the human story. As we delve deeper into the lives and legacy of the Black Ohlone, let us do so with open hearts and minds, willing to confront the uncomfortable truths of our past. For it is only by acknowledging and learning from these truths that we can hope to build a future where no voice is forgotten and no story is left untold.